2016 to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd ask the secretary to note the roll, and I would ask for a motion to excuse Commissioner Keys and Commissioner Walters, please.
I move to excuse Commissioners Keys and Walters.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Barnes, seconded by Commissioner Kish. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, I would ask for the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes held on September 21st, 2016.
Chairman, I move that we approve minutes on September 21st, 2016.
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kish, seconded by Commissioner Milton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item number 5, now is the time for citizens who would like to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on any non-agenda items. I don't have any speaker cards. Anyone from the audience on any non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will move forward. Item number 6, at this time, any ex parte communication from any of the commissioners?
No.
None? We will continue on to there is no old business, and we will move right into new business. I will move right into case number 16-500-0004, the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcels 11. And tonight, that's it. I don't have to open the hearing on this one? Correct. Okay, perfect.
Chairman, members of the commission, thank you. Good evening. I'd like to request, similar to last month, to present items 8.1 and 8.2 concurrently since they are adjacent parcels.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So last month, as some of you may remember, we did 2 parcels within the Lucero community in Estrella Mountain Ranch. This month, we're requesting approval for parcels 11A1 and A2. They're the northmost parcels within Lucero and just adjacent to the Star Tower, which is at the entry point of Estrella. A2 is the entrance into both parcels. It includes 70 lots on about 33.98 acres. The lots are 70 feet by 130 feet and 60 by 120. Those lot sizes were approved in the PAD. There's 2 entry points into parcel A2 off of Hillside Drive. These entry points do provide access to parcel A1, which connects kind of just like that. Parcel A1 has 77 lots on 37 acres. The lot sizes are the same as included in A2. The unique feature that's included in these, which was identified in the staff report, was that the applicant has proposed to have the option of either doing public and private streets, depending on the home buyer or home builder. Whenever they purchase that parcel and move forward with the final plat is when the public versus private will be decided. Staff has agreed that this is okay to formulate the pre-plat like this. All streets are designed per city standards. Engineering's approved the entryways into into the parcels. They're a little bit wider to provide for a gate, an access gate, if they do go private. The development standards for preliminary platting have been accurately addressed per the city code as well as the Lucero PAD. Staff does recommend approval subject to the stipulations. The stipulations are essentially the same ones that were approved with parcels B and C last month. And the applicant is here and available for questions, and I can answer any if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions for Alex? Good job, Alex. Thank you. Any questions? No. Anyone? The applicant is here. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant, or would the applicant like to speak?
Hi, I'm Stuart Barnham with Newland, and there's just one thing I want to point out, and it's a minor item on the stipulations. In here we have that we're required to build the 12-inch line in Astoria Parkway. We've actually changed that alignment, so if we can just add that per the Astoria Water Master Plan dated May 20th, 2016, or as amended. So we've submitted an amendment to that water master plan that changes that alignment. So I don't know if that's important or not.
Does that impact the 11A1 parcel or A2 parcel, or
It actually
both?
impacts both, and it's
Both?
item 5.2
Okay.
on both
On both?
stipulation packets.
Chairman, I don't see any problem with that change, so if commission would like to approve it with that change, we can amend the stipulation before it goes to council.
Perfect. I think it seems like a reasonable amendment. Stuart, can you just give your address for the record, please?
Sure, it's 26023 North Fernbush Drive, Phoenix, Arizona.
Thank you. Any other questions for Stuart? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Alex? I would then ask for, we'll take these separately, but I will start with parcel 11.A1. I'll take a motion on that, please.
I move to approve case number 16-500-0004.
I second.
Before we move forward, Commissioner Barnes, would you also include the amendment to 5.2?
With the amendment to 5.2.
Thank you. With that, I have a motion by Commissioner Barnes, seconded by Commissioner Maloney. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Now 8.2, which is parcel 11.A2. Alex, do you have anything to add? No. Any questions for Alex? With that, I'll take a motion.
Chairman, I move that we vote on case number 16-500-000003.
Second.
Commissioner Kish, will you also include that amendment for 5.2, please?
With amendment to 5-2.
Thank you. Been moved by Commissioner Kish, seconded by Commissioner Barnes. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. I will now open, we'll go to agenda item 8.3, and I will open the public hearing for the amendment of the La Jolla Vista Planned Area Development, PAD, for parcels 4 and 6. And Joe will be presenting tonight. Welcome back, Joe. Good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Joe Schmitz, a Belong Range Planner. And tonight I'll be presenting the amendment of the La Jolla Vista Planned Area Development PAD for parcels 4 and 6. By way of putting it in context, parcel 4 is at the northeast corner of Lower Buckeye and 175th Avenue, outlined in red on the map. and parcel 6 is the northwest corner of Lower Buckeye, and that's 173rd Avenue. I'm sorry, that's a misprint. That's the parcel on the east side of the project that is outlined in red. Parcel 4 is 23.1 acres, and parcel 6 is 18.6 acres. To put the project in context of the area, to the north are located single-family homes in the Sweetwater Estates subdivision, which are 1-acre lots predominantly, and single-family homes in the Cotton Flower subdivision to the east-northeast, which consists of homes on a variety of lots from 50 to 60 feet wide. To the immediate east, across 173rd, are single-family homes in the Scene Lomas subdivision, which range in size with 50 to 55 feet wide lots. To the south is predominantly undeveloped land at the present time. However, there is the El Cedro development to the southeast, the Cotton Commons project to the south, a future Agua Fria High School site due south, and then a project called Citrus Ridge at the southeast corner of Lower Buckeye and Citrus. And then a project called Levinson 160 to the southwest, and Pradera to the immediate west. So the existing zoning on this property was called the La Jolla Vista Planned Area Development. It was approved in October of 2005 for all 198 acres, and it was organized into 8 parcels. Parcels 1, 2, 3, and 5 were zoned R16, single-family detached with 60 by 120 foot wide, 120 foot lots, and 70 by 125 foot lots with a 6,000 square foot minimum. And then parcels 4 and 6 were designated for court home development up to 8 dwelling units per acre, and each parcel 4 could accommodate up to 171 dwelling units, and parcel 6 up to 138 dwelling units. And they had a lot size minimum of 2,000 square feet. Parcel 7, which is located on the eastern part of the site, is set aside for a future elementary school. And then parcel 8, which doesn't appear as parcel 8, it just says park, is a public park site that is being reserved in this project as well. So the overall project was authorized to have up to 690 dwelling units, and the final plats for the parcels 1, 2, 3, 5, and actually what was called a master plat, which platted the main roadways through the project, were approved back in March of 2007. The project has not moved forward, obviously because March 2007 was right before the economic downturn in 2008, and a lot of the projects in West Goodyear went silent for a while, and now we're starting to see them coming back, and you'll probably see more than just this one in the coming months. So in terms of the proposed zoning, this is a PAD amendment, and the amendment applies only to parcels 4 and 6. The parcels that were designated for court homes are now proposed for single-family development on 6,000 square foot lots with a 50-foot wide lot width. So that would be a density up to about 4 dwelling units per acre. They've also requested that the side setback requirement be changed from 5 and 10 to 5 and 8, with the maintaining 13 feet between the homes by pairing up the properties and matching the 5 and the 8. Currently proposed or is based on the conceptual lotting plan that's been submitted. They anticipate that parcel 4 will yield about 72 lots, and parcel 6 will yield about 61 lots. Parcels 1, 2, 3, and 5, there's no change proposed and are really not part of this consideration tonight. Likewise, the elementary school site has no change proposed to it, nor does the public park site on parcel 8. As proposed with the changes to the court home parcels, up to 515 dwelling units would be allowed, which is 175 less than originally approved. So this is a little closer look at parcel 4. It's a court home parcel being changed to single family, as I noted, with a minimum 50-foot wide lot product. 72 single family lots planned. There's 2 open space parcels, one at the northern portion of the site and another one at the southwest corner of the site. There's 1 tot lot that would be proposed within this parcel. All of the other parcels individually have tot lots as well planned. And they are providing a 35-foot landscape buffer along both Lower Buckeye Road and Citrus Road. The street connections to the site will be by way of one on the north to Watkins Drive, and then a second to 177th Avenue there at the southeastern corner of this parcel. Likewise, on parcel 6, the court home parcel would be changed to single family in terms of land use with a 50-foot wide minimum lot size. There's 61 single family lots planned in this area. There also are 2 open space parcels, one on the northern side as currently configured and one in the southeast corner of the site. They are also proposing a 35-foot wide landscape buffer along Lower Buckeye Road, and they are going to stagger the perimeter wall so it has some movement and it's not just a straight wall across the street, along the street. And then as configured and stipulated in the recommendation, there'll be no lots fronting on Magnolia Street. Magnolia Street, although a local street, is going to function at a little bit higher level than a local street because of the presence of the elementary school. And staff had suggested to the applicant, and the applicant subsequently agreed to design the project in such a way to not front lots on Magnolia. In terms of access, likewise, this has a street connection to 175th Avenue on the west side, and then at the northeast corner, there's a street connection to Magnolia Street. One of the concerns that we've had from a staff standpoint with smaller lot development is the potential for garage dominance of the streetscape. As lots get smaller, the options get more limited in terms of what you can do to minimize the presence of the garage on the street frontage. So in addition to our normal design requirements, we worked with the applicant to develop a series of enhanced design guidelines that were incorporated into the PAD. It includes things such as the streets having a landscape parkway between the curb and the sidewalk. All the homes will have either a front porch, a courtyard, or living area forward of the garage by 5 feet so that the garage is not sticking out in front of the house, but rather the living area of the front porch or courtyard is out in front of the house. At least 50% of the homes will have porches or courtyards, 75% of the 50% porches, and 25% of the 50% courtyards. All homes will have enhanced driveway paving. There'll be treatments to the garage door to recess them and architecturally enhance them. The garage doors will be limited to not occupy more than 50% of the building face. And the front setbacks along the street will be staggered by a minimum of 3 feet. And the garages will be set back a minimum of 20 feet from the back of the sidewalk. And living areas, front porches, and courtyards, though, may extend to 10 feet from the front property line to give that additional variation in street frontage. In terms of the functional impacts that we typically review, this is within the air traffic area for Luke Air Force Base, but at least 2 miles from the 65 LDN. As with all development in Goodyear, we require disclosure. The Phoenix Goodyear Airport is about 2.5 miles away from the project, but well outside its projected noise contours. Nonetheless, disclosure is recommended. In terms of the fire department, the fire station 184 at Wildflower and Yuma would be the station to service this area until a new station is constructed, and one is planned in the vicinity of Harrison and Citrus. The police department's indicated that it's located within an existing patrol beat and can be accommodated by the existing level of service. Solid waste would be provided by be provided by the city of Goodyear through its solid waste and recycling program. Water, wastewater, reclaimed water service would be provided by city of Goodyear. However, the impact will be less on the system because of fewer dwelling units, and the lines will be constructed in this area by the developers under a cost recovery program that was established in 2006 and updated in 2014. In terms of schools, they'll be served by the Avondale Elementary School District and the Agua Fria High School District through the existing schools until new schools are built. And the developer has worked closely with the Avondale School District regarding donation of the property for the school site and subsequent development of the park and maintenance of the park. Staff has reviewed the requests, and although we like the fact that the court homes had been included originally in the project, we recognize the need to respond to market conditions and have worked with the developer to mitigate the potentially adverse effects of small lot development. And so through cooperative efforts, the applicant has agreed to the enhanced design guidelines. So we are recommending approval of the project, subject to the stipulations that are listed in the staff report that you have, but with the revision to stipulation I, that at least instead of all the model homes being built with front porches, that at least 50% of the model homes would have to have a front porch to encourage use of the option. And then the addition of stipulation J, which is a clarification about how courtyards are to be configured. It's a footnote 1 to table 4, and it just clarifies what the courtyard would be, what would be allowable in the courtyard. And then lastly, stipulation K is a revision to item C in table 4, which requires that when the courtyard option is used, the garage face shall not be located forward of the living area by more than 5 feet. So once again, we didn't want the garage sticking out in front of the house, so the courtyard would help mitigate that, but we would only allow the garage to project 5 feet in front of the living area. So those stipulations and revisions have been reviewed with the applicant, and he has agreed to the stipulations. The applicant is represented by Taylor Earl tonight, and I believe he has a PowerPoint presentation as well, and when you feel it's appropriate to entertain that.
Does anybody have any questions for Joe?
I do have one. Is there going to be a large gap in time between these buildings being built and the new fire station being built? And will there be a lot of tension on the current fire station, stress on the fire station with these new homes being built?
Chairman Bragg, Commissioner Kish, the city is undertaking a study right now of reevaluating the placement of fire stations, although I can tell you that the one that I mentioned at Harrison and Citrus was included in the city's most recent version of the infrastructure improvement plan for the development impact fees. And so fees are being collected as we speak to contribute toward construction of another station. But that'll all come in due time. Even if this is approved tonight, you're probably 18 months out before you see a house getting built, and at that, they're not all going to get built at once. So time is on our side a little bit there, but the fire department is well aware of the pressures that will come from development in the West Goodyear area, and that's why we've been anticipating that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just add to what Mr. Schmidt said and he spoke of in regards to the fire station study. The city, as Joe indicated, is currently undertaking that, approximately halfway through that effort. The results of that study should be presented in the November timeframe. And essentially, the fire department and Katie and myself have been working with the fire department and our other internal departments as well, been collaborating with the consultant and evaluating the growth patterns for the city, the needs for the calls for service, the types of calls for service, response times, turnout times, and all those things. And the consultant actually is going through a very analytical process in order to determine the best placement for fire stations. And then we'll ultimately, the council will be making decisions on how to fund and the prioritization of which fire stations come first and things of that nature. So it's not like as a result of the fire station study, suddenly we'll have 6 fire stations under construction at the same time. I just wanted to be clear with that, but we are moving forward with the study and look forward to getting those recommendations from the consultant.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Any other questions for Joe at this time? The applicant is here, so I'll ask Taylor to come forward and give his presentation at this time, please.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Earl. I'm with Earl, Curley, and Lagarde. Our address for your records is 3101 North Central Avenue in Phoenix. I'm always happy to be out working in the West Valley. I grew up in the East Valley, but then had my trip to Mecca to the West Valley. And my wife and kids and I live out here, and so it's always good to be out in this area. I have splash pads in Goodyear, and my kids and I have watched the movie out in the ballpark, and so I'm excited to see Goodyear go forward. I think that this proposal helps us do that. And the reason I say that is that, as Joe mentioned, we have this development which has gone forward. We already have final plats that have been approved on the project. But of course, the recession hit. And as we come out of the recession and we've done our market research, these court home products, there just isn't the market for them out in this area. Now, we've done court home products, and I've represented those before. And they do really well out in very dense urban areas where people want to be close to a lot of the employment that's there, or maybe a lot of the entertainment. And so they do well in those areas. But as we talked to brokers out in this area, we found that there wasn't a market for that type of density product out here. And so we're a developer. We're not a final home builder. And so we rely on the market to say whether home builders are going to come in, buy these areas of land, and put in the product which the PAD requires. And so that's been the struggle. And so as we go forward, our phase 1 will have every type of housing product that we have going forward in phase 1. So all the way from the 70 wides would have been down to the court homes. And so we want to make sure that we have the variety of housing, but that all of them are selling well and that they're all moving forward together. And so as our project does well, not only helps the city in terms of that and rooftops and that development, but also one of the issues out here has been infrastructure and water and sewer, wastewater. And we were recently involved with getting amended development agreements to keep those active. And so as we move forward and as this is successful, we think that it will help the city in terms of bringing those things out. And so we believed at the time that this was approved, and we still believe today that it's appropriate and a good thing to have a variety of housing products. And so as I said, we had from the 70 wides down to the court homes, and we thought that mix was important, and staff agreed, and city council agreed. And so we want to maintain that. We want to make sure we're still having a mix of housing products, but we're just going to have to do a slight adjustment on what that category looks like. So we think it's within the same family. It's a unique product, slightly smaller lots. And so part of that is going to the 50-foot wide. But that's not the end. And as Joe mentioned, we have a lot of enhancements that we're bringing in to not only just have that be one of the components, but it'd be one of many things that we're doing to make this a sense of arrival, to have a different feel, but also meet the market demands for the product. So I'll march through them and, of course, answer any questions that you have. So again, as Joe mentioned, and I'll pause just for a moment on this, we are only affecting parcels 4 and 6. And as we met with the neighborhood meeting, there were questions about Durango, which is at the north end. And I don't know if that's one of the thoughts. I know there are some folks here from the neighborhood. And so I want to make that very clear that we are not affecting the approvals that happened up years ago up off of Durango. Our proposal here tonight only affects the parcels that are outlined there in red in 4 and 6. So that's the limit of what we're doing here. Any of the access issues there that may have been preserved for the school, for the park, those are staying as they were at the time that they were approved. Again, this is highlighting here the two parcels that we are discussing, 4 and 6. And as you see in the site data table, you're seeing some of the mix of product that we have throughout the development. And as we're proposing to put in the 50s by 120s, which maintains the 6,000 square foot lot size, which is the minimum lot size in the R16, which is basically what our PAD for this portion comes off of. So we're maintaining the same lot size. Here are just some comparisons to what is existing under the approval and what's proposed. Front setbacks are existing in 10. We're going from 20 to 10, 20 feet or 10 feet, depending on having the house come forward. There's an allowance to have it come forward a little further as long as we're having the house come forward and not the garage, again, to recess the garage. Side setbacks, there was a 0 foot setback. We're now proposing 5 and 8. And there was a 10 and 15 separation. We're now proposing 13. Rear setbacks went from 10 to 20. Lot coverage from between 50 and 65. We're going 45 to 50. Minimum lot areas for these court homes was up to 2,500. We're doing 6,000. Height stays the same. Our lot yield dropped from 309 total down to 133 estimated. The density drops from 7.4 to 3.1 to 3.3. And then as I list there, we have the enhanced design requirements. So that's just a comparison of where we are today and what we're proposing to move to. This is an example of different court home products that exist. A lot of times, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that's basically the drive. It goes right up the gut, and then you would have homes feeding off of that common driveway. And then here's what we're proposing to do. So we're bringing in not only a traditional single family, but also certain design enhancements. So as you see here, covered patios will be a big component of what we're doing, both courtyards and covered patios. And Joe talked about the percentages to make sure that those are represented well, not only in terms of the final build, but also in the model home, so that we're encouraging people to choose that. Also, the architectural detailing around the windows, garage doors, front doors, and things like that, so that we're enhancing the house, we're bringing the house forward, and we're recessing the garage. Same thing here. And so here's some of the architectural design enhancements that we are bringing forward. One of the things with the garage doors, there'll be a variety of garage door finishes, but also enhancements there. Make sure they have panes or other types of enhancements to the garage door itself. Also with the paving that goes into the driveway, that there'll be some type of stamped concrete or pavers to enhance the driveway itself. We have a variety of floor plans and elevations, so at least 4 floor plans with a minimum 4 elevations, and then a variety of 4 colors. So you get a huge variety, and there's limitations on what can be next to each other. So again, as you come into the community, you're making sure you're not seeing the same houses next to each other, that you're getting a large variety of the houses. And that's with the next bullet there in the second column, no more than 2 two-story homes adjacent to each other along arterial streets. So as it affects people outside of the development, you won't be seeing the two-story homes right next. There'll be a variety and rooftops as well. And then front doors with panels or windows, decorative windows, 4-sided tree, pop-outs, reveals are recessed. And then the primary building elevations to have a minimum of 24 inches of change in the plane so that there's movement front to back. As I mentioned, garage doors to be recessed 12 inches from the front plane of the house, and garage doors not to occupy more than 50% of the front of the building face. Here are just some of those features. So if we start in the photo on the top left, you see some of the things there: the covered patio, the stonework, the difference in the roof. You see, it has a different type of roof design. There's an architectural detailing that's over the front patio. If you move to the top middle, again, you're getting the shutters. You're getting an architectural detail where that exposed beam comes out from the top. Again, a covered patio. Top right corner, architectural detail at the top, the highest part, and next to the windows, shutters, covered patios. So Again, what we're trying to do is bring in something that does feel different, that does have a special, unique environment. We know the court homes had that because it's different. We're trying to bring in something different here so that you're having homes that come out closer. We're going to have detached sidewalks. And my experience has been, as I've gone into communities that have this similar, it does feel different. You drive in it does definitely have a different feel. It has more of a tight-knit community. My brother lives in one of these. It has a unique feel. You walk in, you feel like you're more part of your neighbors. You walk out, you can see your neighbors. The homes come up. It causes you to drive a little slower as you're coming down the street because the homes are a little closer to the street by having detached sidewalks. The sidewalks no longer seem perfunctory, like they're an extension of the driveway. They seem like, hey, you're supposed to use these. Come out and walk around and get to know your neighbors. By having covered patios, you were encouraging people to come and live in the front and be there with their neighbors. So it does have that unique feel that I think is what staff wanted to do. And I think after Joe can confirm many hours of working with staff to come to an agreement on these types of things, we think we've reached that point. Here's some of just a zoom in on some of the things that I just talked on. The detached sidewalk, themed street trees. You have the 5-foot landscape area. This is, I mentioned, the driveways that will have some type of detailing on them as well. This also shows a top view showing the courtyard, how that would come forward and have a little covered roof as you enter into the courtyard. This also shows what we'll be doing around the site as well. So we have a 30-foot minimum for the landscape area that will be both off of Lower Buckeye and Citrus. Whereas that's more than what's required by code. There'll also be a stagger with the wall off of parcel 6 to make sure there's some movement there off of the road. This is a zoom in on that so you can see where what's required is 20 feet. We're going to 35 feet. So they'll be very deep, and again, with the different rooftop designs, there'll be variety there. This is a corner enhancement. So whereas you have a 5-foot detached area for landscaping that's kind of facing on the street, as you go to the corner, that'll increase to 10 feet. And this is showing the pedestrian connectivity from, again, just parcels 4 and 6. So we have connectivity not only throughout our site with a detached sidewalk, but it connects to the larger network outside. This is showing the stagger off of parcel 6 that will be onto Lower Buckeye. So there's movement there. And then also we have a front setback stagger so that there's movement in the house. You don't have them all on the same plane up against the residential road. There's some movement there front to back. And then we also are showing our perimeter open spaces with the tot lot that Joe mentioned up in the top left corner. And that's a zoom in on that right there. We also are agreeing, we have design entry features. So again, a sense of arrival, a sense of place that we'll be installing. And this is the overall master plan, and then a zoom in on exactly what we're doing, which is 4 and 6. And as I mentioned, putting the phasing plan just so you could see that we are trying to move forward in our phase 1, including all the different type of housing types, including parcel 6, which would have this product type in it as well. And it would also have the park and the school site. So with that, I'll answer any questions. We also have Josh Hannon here from EPS, so if there's technical questions that you have, he might be able to assist me in those.
I have a question. It just seemed that, like that first picture when you drive into the street, it seemed tight. Is there parking on the street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's 2-car garage,
Correct.
so parking shouldn't be an issue.
No, it won't be an issue. In fact, one of the benefits to having something going from the courtyard to a product like this is that while courtyard or court homes do have the ability to park, they do have a garage. They don't tend to have a driveway per se. And so you kind of go, there's like a stub driveway of 3 feet, and then you have your garage, which is great if it's just you. But when you have a guest, you kind of got to walk around the corner to the parking. So this is one of the benefits of having a traditional single-family detached, is that you do have the ability for a guest to park either in your driveway, because you're in the garage, and he or she's on the driveway, or possibly in the street as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Earl?
No.
Seeing none, thank you, sir. Before we move into public comment, any other questions for Joe at this point in time? No? Okay, at this point in time, we'll move into public comment, and I do have a few speaker cards. If you do wish to speak and you have not filled out one of these speaker cards, I'd ask you to come over to the desk over here to your left-hand side and fill out one of these speaker cards. I will call you up. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. Katie will be timing those 3 minutes, and she'll warn you when you're down to 30 seconds. And then I will go on to the next speaker. So we do need everybody to register if speaking. If you're not sure and you want to get up, we'll take you, and then just make sure you see staff afterwards to make sure these cards get filled out. And so with that, I will start with Joel Suppley. And Mr. Suppley, will you please state your name and your address for the record?
Joel Suppley, 1817 South 177th Avenue, Goodyear.
Actually, Joel, before you start, and this won't be part of your 3 minutes, can we just pull back up one of the maps from Joe's presentation? That way people we get a sense of where we're at, and if residents want to. Do we have the first one that includes the 2 subdivisions? The acre lots and the
Lainey, can we have Joe's presentation, please?
Actually, I think it was the first slide. There you go. Okay, Joel. Thank you. Go ahead.
No, thank you. I know this is a little redundant at this point, but it's in the best interest for the future that we have nothing happen at Durango. I noticed the houses were going to butt up to the Durango Street. We're saying no access to Durango Street. And I'm also suggesting that we put a pretty decent greenbelt easement in there and then where the housing goes up to the block wall, we go ahead and the houses be nothing but 1 story. Because we had an issue on the east side of our project. They were supposed to be single story houses, and I'm sure that at one point there was going to be an easement in there. And that did not happen. And some of them 2 stories are overlooking our projects, and they're making people, I'm sure, very, very uncomfortable. So that's what I was proposing on Durango. I'm sure we're all in agreement there. And that's all I really had to say. That our community has been there. It's been a good community for, I'm sure, 40-plus years. And we want to maintain that community. And we want to make sure that community survives. Because I can see right now where this is going, and it doesn't look good for our future. But if we can maintain some neighborhood, I'm missing a point here. Let me go back to saying we love our community in there, and even though we know what's happening behind us and outside of us, we'd like to keep it that way. And with your help, we'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Suppley. And I just thank all of you for coming out and registering your comments. I just want to make sure that this is very clear to all of the residents and to the commission as well, is our decision tonight and the vote that we will be taking here will have no impact on what has already been done or is planned for Durango. The vote that we take will specifically be in those 2 red areas, and it's an amendment to actually make fewer homes in those 2 areas. What you saw on the map in the presentation, that has been already set at this point in time. So just to let you know that whatever action we do take tonight will have no impact on those comments that you have registered, just so that you're aware. Okay? Jose Avina.
Chairman. Jose Avina, 1701 South 175th Drive, Goodyear. So in 05, those are already, that plan has already been approved by you guys. along Durango.
The commission at that time did approve them, yes.
Okay, well, we came in at that time and opposed that, and I see the final plan is openings in the walls. Luckily, we didn't get future streets going through there. Our streets can't handle that anyways. They're chip seal. But common practice, I've built subdivisions for 20 years. I've moved dirt, big companies. Common practice along 1 acre subdivisions is you match what's on the other side. You're putting in 50-foot lots across there. 50 foot is somewhat decent, but not big. So it's already set, that's fine. I know we're only here, you guys are only talking about the changes on those 2 parcels. But we did want to see no access whatsoever. When Cotton Flower went in, there's no access on Cotton Flower. I live on the east end against Cotton Flower. I have 4.5 houses behind my house. So luckily the neighbors are good, but that works out pretty well when you don't have access to the big subdivision into a rural community. So get a lot of problems with kids out there messing with the kids' animals and stuff. So just wanted to say that. We did have a petition. The whole community signed it against this, but I see it's a little too late. You guys already designed this and pushed it through. So not much really can say now.
I would ask that you give that petition to Joe, and he can file that. Correct me if I'm wrong. There will be one more public hearing once they get to those phases, correct?
There will be a public hearing on this issue before the city council. After, if this is approved by the planning commission and the city council, the next step would be platting. Platting does go to commission and city council for review, but it's not a public hearing process. There's not notice sent to individual property owners like there was for this meeting tonight.
If you'll give that to Joe, and he'll put that in the city files. But like I said, yeah, in 2005, that was a different commission.
Exactly.
I mean, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate your comments. I respect your comments and understand the issues you face. So,
Okay.
thank you. I also have Kimberly Bruntmeyer.
Chairman and Commissioners, thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. I am Kimberly Bruntmeyer, and I live at 1802 South 177 Avenue in the Sweetwater Estates community. I think our request tonight really is to help us in any way to have some sort of an amendment to parcels 1 and 2, which abuts to our estates. Many of us have concerns about the pedestrian entryway accessing our community, which is not really a good place for increased pedestrian traffic or any parking in our community. We don't have current sidewalks. We have livestock that on occasion can get out of our pens or whatever, and we sure would hate to have them running through the new development. I don't think increased pedestrian traffic would be helpful in our area because we do have those animals. We've had occasions where some people have come into our community and actually have violated the fence line and come thankfully just to pet our animals or, to be closer to nature in our community. And it's all been pretty nonviolent at this point, but the more people we get into the area, the more people that we have penetrating our community. I think we're opening ourselves up for not only lawsuits for us as homeowners, but I would hate to see anyone be injured in our area. We don't have any lighting in our area, and we kind of like it that way. This new development that's coming in will have an impact on our neighborhood in I don't want to say a negative way, but we will have an impact on our neighborhood. We like to be good neighbors, but we also like to have our community where we can feel like we are still in the rural area. We appreciate not having light pollution, and we like to be able to go outside of our homes at night and be able to see the stars. We have street lamps coming into this new development that are going to impede that for us. So we'd like to be good neighbors. We're taxpayers. We may not be considered city residents, but we do support the commerce in the area. So I think that we would like to just see some sort of amendment or reevaluation to the final plat, since it was done, I guess, about 9 years ago the final plat was done. I just think that in the time that's passed, perhaps times have changed.
30 seconds.
People have changed, and that we should reevaluate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have any further speaker cards. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, and then when you're finished, just turn that card into staff, please.
Do that. My name is Phil Grimm. I live in the Sweetwater Estates area, 1801 South 176th Avenue. I've got a couple of concerns as well as most of the folks that are here tonight. I'm bad with names. Is Mr. Earl? Okay, sir. You came up with a comment about a unique environment. We have a unique environment where we're at, and we would like to keep it that way. The slower traffic, I believe you brought up also, something like that. I've seen it in lots of neighborhoods before, in the newer neighborhoods that are connected with, the older neighborhoods and stuff. And as we've all been talking, our streets aren't capable of that in the first place. We have a lot of children that are growing up down there. We don't need that traffic going through there. Another issue that I wanted to bring up, there was very few of us in our little neighborhood there, our county island, that received a flyer in the mail about these meetings. Actually, I got mine, and I went over and talked to Mr. Greenmeyer, and I says, "Hey, did you get one of these?" And he says, "No." So we were concerned about this. So we started talking to some of the other neighbors, including Pep, and a handful of others. They said, "No, we didn't receive that." I believe Ken off of Durango there, I think he had one. But there was very few people that had any notice of this at all. I'd kind of like the answer of why there was only a select few people that actually got those.
Finish with your comments, and then
No,
we'll.
I'm open for whatever you have to say. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
By law, we're required to send notice to all property owners within 300 feet. We sent notices to all property owners within 500 feet. Technically, we could have limited it to the area around the red parcels, but we went all the way around the whole subdivision. Why people sometimes don't get their notices, I can't explain. All I know is that we sent them. And as long as I'm up here, I could answer a couple other points for you, the benefit of the commission. The original zoning stipulated that there'd be no two-story homes permitted within 120 feet of the east-west midsection line between the north property line of La Jolla Vista and Sweetwater Estate. So there is a limitation that no two-story homes be built along that north line within 120 feet. And then the subdivision will have a perimeter wall along Durango. It will not have any roadway access. And it'll have a 10-foot landscape strip developed on the north side of the wall. And he also was stipulated that there'd be a pedestrian connection, and it was required by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council at the time to be forward-thinking of allowing access from Sweetwater through the subdivision to reach the park and the elementary school, which will be open to the public. So I just wanted to add those clarifying points.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the commission at this time? Yes, sir. Make sure state your name and address for the record, and then you can turn that into Heather over there, please.
My name is Christian Vitea David. I'm at 1718 South 177th Avenue, better known for the Wallace residence. Just like what everybody was saying pretty much is that we're all concerned about, like you guys said, is you guys aren't going to be building two-story houses, but that's what you guys promised on the last development going on that whole backside of all those houses already. And we just don't want people that everybody, a lot of people have nice toys and stuff like that and don't want people just looking down, just staring right at all their stuff that they have. And they don't want an access point for whoever to come out at 10, 11 o'clock at night just to get away, because the only thing you can hear at night is barely the I-10 and barely the 303 traffic, let alone someone talking 10, 11 o'clock at night, just walking through the neighborhood because there's an easy access point for them to access off of Durango Street. And we just don't want to have confrontation, like a lot of people said too, animals that live in the neighborhood and stuff like that. We just don't want to have that access way. We can't stop what's going to happen. I know you guys said can't really do anything about it because it's only these parcels here, but like he said, we didn't get any notice, and it's only those houses there, and it's not like it's a big community in there anyway, so we couldn't get those notices for all those neighbors. It's not like it's that whole community to the right with all those new houses. It's, I don't know how many handful of houses, but it's not that many houses. And the majority of us, I don't know how many, but I just found out less than 24 hours ago. So when we found out from our neighbor coming up going, hey, did you know, can you sign this? So that was our concern too. Like I said is having people coming through that way, right through that passageway. So that's it for that.
Thank you.
you.
I think I saw an additional hand. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name is Miguel Carranza, 1725 South 177th Avenue. Just my issue is when you guys came up with this idea of the access, and I know being brought up in the rural community most of my life, urban people don't really, they'll start vandalizing and start throwing rocks at our horses and our chickens. And I don't know if where my neighbors on 175th Avenue, there's a house, the last house on the southeast corner. I mean, there were rocks from those kids that were, I don't know if you guys remember that. I mean, rocks like this big and all size rocks just thrown from that community into our neighborhood. And I noticed that till, I don't know who cleaned them up, but I just don't want to see, kids going into our neighborhood and starting trouble with, vandalizing or going over there, releasing our horses, and, it happens. Somebody is not home, a kid goes in there, vandalizes, and, people have stud horses. Stud horses are dangerous. It can happen. And who's responsible? We are. So, and I know you said it's already said and done, but you should take into consideration what everybody feels in the neighborhood that's been there. I haven't been there that long, and I love that neighborhood. My kids walk all over the place there. I love it. But just take that into consideration, because I was brought up in a rural community. And those kids that don't know how to handle animals or be around animals is dangerous. It really is. And they would have that access to freely roam into that neighborhood and just create havoc. You don't know. A 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid, hey, come on, let's go there and let those horses loose. It happens. I've seen it happen. And then we're in trouble because we're responsible. Our horses over there on Target parking lot kicking a lady or something, and we get sued for it. That has something to do with it too, a lot, and I figured I would come up and say that.
Thank you.
And I was in a hurry to get over here from work, and my shirt's on backwards, if you guys noticed it.
Thank you. If it's a quick comment, I'll let you do, because we did interrupt your 3 minutes, but. Thank you. Any further comments for the commission? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Geneva Greenmeyer. I live at 17541 West Papago Street in Sweetwater Estates. I've lived there for 38 years. I love the neighborhood. I feel safe. I think most everyone else does too. We hardly ever have any problem. The problems that we have are during fireworks season from cotton flower and neighboring around that scare our animals absolutely to death and keep us upset. When you have pedestrian access to our neighborhood, I live on a dead-end street. And it's a dead-end street in front of me, and alongside of it is RID right away, the irrigation ditch. When the weather is nice and it's nice outside, we have kids walking up and down there all hours of the day and night. Our dogs bark. Before we had our property fenced, we have had to go out numerous times and run kids out of our corrals with the mules and the horses. They just come by and they just think, oh, how cute, so we'll just go in there. Well, that's a liability on me. And even though it's my property and there was a corral there with our animals in it, there was the kids. We moved out there for a reason, because of a certain lifestyle. And a lot of people don't understand this lifestyle, but we all love it, and that's why we're there. I hate to see it change. I hate to see pedestrian access in there, because some kids, kids are kids, but some kids are not taught to leave things alone and don't go where they're not needed and where it's not their property. I really have a problem with this. And if there's access on 175th Avenue, I have an old dog that I'm up day and night with her outside. And I sit out on my front and I watch the traffic on 175th, and it is just outrageous. All hours of the day and night, speeding down through there, and I think, oh, I'm glad I don't live on that street. Anything that you can do to help us maintain the lifestyle that we all moved out there to enjoy. And there's not a lot of this lifestyle left around. There's not a lot of places that you can go and do this and have your animals right at your disposal, where you can go out and saddle your horse and go down the street and stuff like that, and have your
30
calves
seconds.
or whatever. I would just appreciate consideration of this lifestyle that is going the way of the cowboy lifestyle. We still need this. This is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Frances Gonzalez. I live at 1902 South 175th Drive. Been there for 20 years. I live right on the corner of 175th Drive in Durango. My concern, the last development, we were told no two-story houses. Well, that's what you have. Parties, everything is viewing where we are. It's not that we care, people coming by, whatever, it's just the property we have, the items we have. It's the invasion of them being able to see what we own and what they can take. Like he said, our neighbor was just robbed, and that's because now you can see over what cars, what items, what tools, whatever we leave out. It's our privacy. And even though I know nothing you can do, because there's going to now be a walkway, it is an invasion to us. Because the reason we moved out there 20 years ago when we were younger was that acreage, that, that no neighbor next to you, the being able to grow or get whatever animals. But now we have kids that come from wherever and tease the dogs, tease the animals, and throw rocks at them, hear my dog yelp, because we are on the corner. It is an invasion. Or they put a stop sign barely maybe about 5 years ago. Nobody stops. The cars come zooming by. Don't even know who they are because they're not from our neighborhood. Why? Because they have the access this way and they don't want to go around, so they just cut through. If there's anything you guys can do, like you said, you can't change what was done in 2005 and 2007. But if there could be an amendment where we do have that no two stories, and not all of a sudden, and no, we didn't get any notification by some zoning thing. We got it from a neighbor who had the common courtesy to come and say, hey, did you know this is going to happen to you guys? And had he not, and had she not gone door to door, I don't think any of us would have come or known. So if you guys can do anything, have mercy on us who have been out there and who moved out there to have that country life that we grew up with. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments for the commission? Once again, as we move forward here in just a few minutes, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and registering your comments. Citizen involvement, I think, is very important, and I can tell you that I do very well understand the rural lifestyle. It's the lifestyle that I grew up in and enjoy very much myself. And so I understand the issues that you have brought forward, and while our vote will not impact what is going to occur on Durango at this point in time, I will ask staff, specifically Joe, since he is working on the issue, and the applicant is here, if you will just communicate with the applicant, one, the petition that the neighborhood has signed, as well as the issue of access on Durango, and the two-story issue, which that seems to be resolved. I think the last one seems to be access. If you'll just communicate that directly back to the applicant for future notice, I think that would be much appropriated and appreciated by myself and the concerned citizens. So with that, I will take unless there's any other questions for Mr. Schmidt or the applicant. Are there any questions for them? No questions from the audience. Sorry. If it's something related, I'm sure that Joe or the staff could answer that afterwards, but we're going to move in just to voting on parcel 4 and 6, and basically it's just moving from those court home products to the single-family homes. That's what we're going to vote on now. So with that, I will take a motion. Actually, I'll close the public hearing and take a motion.
Chairman, I move that we vote on case number 15210-00003, the amendment of La Jolla Pad 4 and 6.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kish, seconded by Commissioner Maloney.
Chairman, can we get clarification? Does this motion include the staff recommended revised stipulations?
I apologize for that. Mr. Kish, would you include the revised staff recommendations dated 10/19/16, which have been accepted by the applicant as well, please?
I apologize. Sure. I would like to also include in my motion the staff recommendation that was passed on 10/19/16.
Commissioner Maloney, are you okay with that amendment?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you coming out tonight. We will now move on to item 8.4, and this is just a refresher on the overview of the Arizona open meeting laws and the best practices. And I believe if you guys could take your conversations outside, we still have business to conduct, please. And I believe we will go right into this, and this is Lisa Mullins, and I believe you are new to the city, correct?
That's correct.
Well, congratulations
Thank you.
on the new job, and welcome. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Lisa Mullins. I'm in the Legal Services Department, and just my goal today is to give an overview or refresher regarding the open meeting law. Just to tell you a little bit about my background.
Hey, there's a spare one on the end.
Just to tell you a little bit about my background, before coming to the city of Goodyear, I worked at the Arizona Attorney General's office, and I represented a number of boards that were subject to the Arizona Open Meeting Law. I was also a member of the Open Meeting Law Enforcement Team, which is a team that the Attorney General's office has that investigates open meeting law violations. The goal today is to be a refresher, but if I had to summarize the Arizona Open Meeting Law in one word, that word would be openness. And the goal is to ensure that the public has access to the deliberations, the discussions, the actions that a public body takes. What is a meeting? A meeting takes place when how is this openness accomplished? It's accomplished through a notice and agenda that sets forth exactly what the public body is going to do in a meeting. A meeting is simply a gathering of a quorum of, in this case, the commissioner members to discuss, propose, deliberate, and take action on a matter. During my course with the Arizona Attorney General's Law, one of the concerns that always came up, we have commission members, we have board members, they have great intention, no one has the intention of violating the law. But we saw a couple of common pitfalls, things that happen that often found board members or commissioner members in violation of the law. And I would like to go over some of those common pitfalls with you. The first one is the failure to provide proper notice of an upcoming meeting. Notice and agendas are required anytime a public body meets. They go out, they set forth what the public body is going to do, and they have to be posted at least 24 hours before the meeting takes place. One situation where the notices are posted for your meetings, the council meetings, are on the front window of City Hall. In 2010, the legislature understood that there were changes, a sign of the time. Now all public bodies have to post notices on their website. The second pitfall is the discussion of an item not listed on the agenda. If the public body plans to discuss a matter, it has to be specifically listed on the agenda. The board or public body can only take action on items listed on the agenda. And this is a situation that was faced, I think, in 2005, where there's a splintering of the quorum, meaning we're not meeting here at City Hall, but there's 4 members of a 7-body commission meeting at Starbucks to talk about a certain issue that potentially will come forth on a future agenda. That's a quorum of the commission. That would be a violation of the open meeting law. Let's say, for example, less than a quorum meets. 3 members meet at Starbucks, discuss a potential issue that's coming up on a future item, less than a quorum. But let's say Commissioner Member D talks to another commissioner member, and now at that point, 4 people have discussed a matter that potentially will be voted on in a public meeting. That is splintering the quorum. Although all of you weren't at the same place at the same time, you have effectively talked about or discussed something that will be discussed at a meeting. Again, the sign of the time, that applies to emails, that applies to text messages, instant messages, any method that you might use to discuss a matter and a quorum of the board members discuss it. Another item that we would see as the open meeting law enforcement team is to utilize staff as a middleman, a person who staff talks to 3 people, but then staff goes to talk to the other 3 people. At that point, you effectively had a quorum, which is a violation of the law. Pitfall number 3, agendas that contain general references without specific details. This doesn't happen much anymore, and this is a situation where your agenda simply states the board or the commission will only talk about new business or old business without specifically listing what those items are. In that situation, again, we're back to that underlying principle of openness. If I'm a public citizen and I want to know what this board is going to talk about, if I see a general description that just says old business or new business, in that situation, I'm not informed. I can't make a decision about whether or not I want to attend that meeting and participate in that meeting. There's an exception to that rule, and that's the current event summary. Again, with current events, I think the legislature realized that, there are situations where the chairman of your commission might want to give an update about current events. If a commissioner has received an award and he wanted to let everyone know about it, or if the city recently received an award regarding zoning or planning issues, he would want to let this commission know. It doesn't have to be specifically listed on the agenda. He can update you on current event items. Now again, this provisions, there are limitations about what can be discussed, who can discuss it, and the fact that if there's a current event item, board members cannot propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any of those current event items. Pitfall number 4, failure to keep accurate minutes of the public body's meetings and subcommittee meetings. Again, back to that underlying principle of openness. Minutes are a conclusion. It summarizes exactly what this board did in tonight's meeting. So as a public member, as a citizen, I can pick up the minutes, review them, and understand what actions this commission took. Minutes should set forth specific information, date, time, place, who was there, and what legal actions were taken. And this is how important minutes are. The law is that after a meeting, those minutes must be available to the public within 3 working days in some form or fashion. Again, granting people access to what happened in a meeting. The next pitfall is pitfall number 5, discussing issues raised by a citizen during the call to the public. And I would specifically like to talk about instances where they're not listed on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, then as a commission, you have 3 options. You can respond to a criticism, you can ask staff to review the matter, or you can instruct staff to put that on a future agenda. Again, this is an opportunity for the public to participate in the meeting, but there are limitations, time, manner, and place restrictions. Pitfall number 6, executive sessions. In the past, there have been issues with council or board members, not specifically anyone here, but as on my open meeting law enforcement team, where meeting an executive session just because. And as you know, an executive session is a closed door session. So that is the exception to everything that I just talked about, because it's closed door, the public doesn't participate, and you can have general description about the executive session. And the purpose, the legislature realized there are certain situations that need to be confidential, that the public should not be allowed in or have access to. Legal advice is one of those. Again, there's an attorney-client privilege. So if you had legal advice in front of everyone sitting in this room, then there would be a waiver of the privilege, which we wouldn't want to do. And here are the only reasons you can go into executive session. Executive sessions must be properly noticed. You have to have a majority vote to go in executive session, and you only get to have the people in the room that are reasonably necessary for that executive session. Everyone does not get to come in the room. You cannot vote or take any action in executive session. All information shared in executive session, that information is confidential. There was an issue, I think it was City of Scottsdale, where someone disclosed what was in executive session. Again, the whole purpose, the reason this law is in place, is for the purpose of keeping that information secret. The only time it is open to the public, that would be someone who's doing an investigation of a public body or an audit. Legal advice has been one of the issues that was seen on the open meeting law team a lot, where board members or commission members thought executive session, legal advice, generally we can talk about a variety of issues. No, if it's for legal advice, the only thing you can do is ask the lawyer a question, and the lawyer gives you an answer about, or legal advice about the question you posed. Again, this is not a situation where you get to get factual updates or a situation where you get to discuss a matter and potentially take a vote. Pitfall number 8. If it's only a subcommittee of the public body, then the open meeting law is not applicable. That is not true. There is a specific provision that was passed that clarified it to let you know that if there's a subcommittee that has been established by an official body, that subcommittee is also subject to the Arizona open meeting law. Pitfall number 9 is thinking there are no consequences for violation of the open meeting law. And there are consequences. Your action could be null and void if you vote on something in violation of the open meeting law. You would then have to go back and ratify those provisions. You might have to pay attorney's fees if an issue goes to court. You could be removed from your public office. But I think the most important thing is the embarrassment or loss of public trust. That, again, we always talk about the headline test. You always want to have respect from the public and that they're trustworthy about any actions and what happens with the commission. Again, when in doubt, err on the underlying principle of being open. Does the public have access to my discussions, my deliberations, and my decisions? Here's a couple of resources for you if you want to have those. And also, Legal Services Department, we are available if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a very good presentation. Does anybody have any questions for Lisa?
I do have one question. I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm sorry. Can you go back to pitfall number 5?
Sure.
Thank you. In regards to, and then one more. Go one more. Okay. And then raising an issue. I'm sorry.
Number 5 and then one more.
There we go. So responding to criticism in a public hearing like today, where there was a lot of criticism regarding to Durango and then wasn't even up for vote tonight. But how do you respond to the criticism of, can we instruct the staff to place maybe a change in the, because this was done in 2005, and was anybody on the board? And so you want to respond to that issue that the public has, but would it be more appropriate to respond to that issue later when that Durango time is going to be an issue, or do you deal with that now? That's where, because you want to hear them and you want to respond to them, but you don't know when would be the appropriate time to respond or to ask staff to respond to that.
So I think the situation tonight was unique because, number one, I think the issue with Durango, I haven't been involved, but I'm assuming it's related to the issue that's on the agenda. So it's an appropriate, since it's reasonably related to the issue that's on the agenda, you can respond to it at that time. But again, I think the chair instructed staff to look into the issues regarding traffic and things like that, all appropriate because this was on the agenda. And although Durango might not have been the specific topic, it was reasonably related to the issue that was on the agenda. Did that answer your question?
If I could help clarify a little bit here, this really plays to the beginning of our agendas where we ask for comments from the public that are not related to an agenda item. When they come in, and I've never had it since I've been on the commission, but let's say someone comes up and says, we really hated something you did, then we have those options. That's kind of where this number 5 is at.
That's correct. But as I understand, the Durango issue was somewhat related, not directly related, but somewhat. Yes, so that would be a situation when they come and talk about something that's not even listed on the agenda. And at the conclusion of that, as a board member, if it's a criticism, and I've seen this play out where someone accused a board member, it was a transportation board, of not doing something in the public, in the public hearing portion. And actually, that board member did say, that's a criticism toward me. I can respond specifically, and he put it on the record. So that was that situation. Other than that, yes, you simply, once that person concludes, instruct the staff or whatever other action you think is appropriate through the chair.
Thank you.
Commissioner Maloney, did you have?
Well, I had a situation like that because I live over in Pebble Creek, and there was a big brouhaha about the assisted living building that they were going to do. And a couple of people came up to me and said, what's going on? You live in Pebble Creek, yada, 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 and kind of browbeat me, and I basically said, you have to take this up with the powers that be. I'm not your enemy, and I'm not the person that you should be discussing this with, and I mean, I think we all got letters one day. Did you get a letter? Yeah, and so I just think it's part of the pitfalls of doing something like this, and you walk away from it. That's what I do, gently.
Any other questions or comments for Lisa? Thank you again, Lisa, and congratulations. Welcome to Goodyear.
Thank you, Lisa.
I think we're going to move into staff communication, and are we going to move down to the tables, Katie, at this point in time?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we would like to hold the work session at the table. We just need to move the podium and put the table together. So if you just want to, if it please the commission, move down to the table and we'll get it set up at the same time.
Thank you.
No, the meeting's still.
No one intends to. Oh, good.
No, you don't need Elmo rights.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
You got a bunch of wires and stuff.
Yeah. That must be the hot line.
Public people on one side and private people on the other.
You bet.
If it's not too much of an inconvenience, we'll just leave that there for now.
Sorry for reaching out.
No worries.
Well, look at that. You get your own. There you go.
Mr. Chairman, if you can indulge me for just a second, if we can, let's do the, while there's a finishing setting up the summary of current events and so forth.
Yes, please.
Okay. We've had one case from your September meeting proceed on to the City Council for consideration. The council considered at the October 3rd meeting, I believe it was, the city initiated rezoning for the property that the 40 acres that the city owns that's formerly known as the Duncan Family Farms. If you remember, that was to rezone it from agricultural to PAD and light industrial. And that went to the city council and was unanimously approved. At your September meeting, you also had two other cases on there for consideration, which is a couple of preliminary plats for Lucero, parcels 11C and 11B. And those are in process to get to the City Council for approval as well, and we anticipate those going in November. Also, one other one, I'm sorry, I skipped, is a preliminary plat for Paseo Place. That went on October 3rd as well, and was approved by the City Council. So that's about the sum and substance of what I have. If I can, are you going to introduce? Okay. As you all know, last year we had a joint work session with the City Council on the sign ordinance. If you jump back a little bit in your memory, and for the benefit of our newer commissioners, there was a U.S. Supreme Court case, Reed versus the town of Gilbert, that challenged sign regulations, and the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court really, frankly, shook the foundations of sign ordinances in jurisdictions across the entire country. Steve was duly appointed as the project manager on the updates of the sign ordinance to get us compliance with federal law and moving forward in a positive fashion. Also, we had some conversations with the council about some requested amendments to the sign ordinance to be more, quote, business friendly, if you will, allow some more signage, but still maintain quality. And that was the function of our work session just about a year ago, I think it was, Steve, in October. So Steve has done the yeoman's job of rolling his sleeves up, and he's going to introduce his able-bodied assistant, who really, they worked as a great team and to get us to this point. Currently, this is draft 4, if I recall correctly, that they're going to walk you through. And then the plan of attack, if you will, is to engage our business community after we get your comments, and then we'll have a work session with the City Council, make the appropriate revisions to the ordinance, because I anticipate we may have some as a result of your input, council input, and public input, and then begin moving through the public adoption process. Our goal is to kind of start moving through that public adoption process shortly after the first of the year. We certainly want to give our business constituents enough time to give us quality feedback. So that's where we are in a nutshell, and I'm turning it over to Steve and Ellen.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, yes, I'd like to introduce Ellen Van Riper. She is City Attorney for Winslow, also has her own legal consultant. She's helped the city quite a bit in the past, so she's done a lot of the work with this sign amendment, especially being, like Christopher said, with the Supreme Court case. So we needed some expertise on the law side. But what we'd like to do tonight is update you where we are. It's been about a year since, I know Commissioners Kish and Maloney, you were there at the work session a year ago. What we've done since then, and if possible, if you would share any comments or questions or anything you'd like to see with this, we'd love to hear that too. Have a PowerPoint here, and I'll go through this quickly. Let's see. This is the background. This is kind of what we've done in the past. The Supreme Court decision, our joint work session, basically a year ago. What we've done with this process, that work session, the joint work session. Right now, we're at the prepare initial draft and work session review. That's what we're doing here tonight. So we're kind of maybe halfway through with a lot of the work.
Oh, I just banged my knee.
Oh, I hate that.
Not the best table. So what we'd like to do, go before the council, reach out to the public. Kind of Ellen and I will work together to put another draft together, circulate. We got to get some staff review. So we've still got some work to do with this. What we think we have, though, is a good basis here that we thought we could share with you. Get that out to the public and keep refining it. Tonight, provide you an update, get some guidance, and then tell you what we're going to do next. Discuss overall kind of what we've done to basically, this is a comprehensive amendment. We've kind of tinkered with most of it. So that's why you didn't get a red line version with the strike through. It was too messy. It was better just to give you a clean copy, maybe show you maybe some of the comments that we've done. So we're going to highlight then. We'll get down a little deeper into the ordinance, maybe some of the more significant changes. Article-wide, with the Supreme Court decision, we want it to be content neutral. So we don't want to, you don't want to have to read the sign to regulate it, to know how to regulate it. So that was one of the big things to come out of the Reed case. We want to be consistent, so we can't treat one sign different than another sign versus another sign. So that was something we have to look at. Commercial, non-commercial speech, that's another biggie. We can't favor one over the other. And then council asked us to look at more signage opportunities. So that's another thing we wanted to do here with this update. These are the 15 sections. Generally, they're the basic sections you'll find in most sign codes, so really nothing different here. One is the purpose. Why are we doing it? With Ellen's help especially, we wanted to make sure we were clear that we weren't favoring commercial speech over non-commercial speech. So, and commercial speech, as we know, is kind of what we see on driving down the road, this, Target, whatever. The non-commercial speech, the political signs in someone's front yard. We want to make sure we're not allowing a corporation or a commercial entity, big, huge signs, but we're not allowing our citizens the same right for freedom of speech. So that's something we were trying to look for in this code. 2, definitions. We did play around with the definitions, several of them. And you can see from the removed section, garage sale signs, grand opening signs. I think you can see that those signs, you kind of have to read those signs to know that it's a garage sale sign or interim business identification banner, open house. You got to read that sign to know what it is, to regulate it. That's a content-based regulation. That's out of the Reed case. It's what we don't want to do. Sections 3 and 4, general procedures. We're still going to require sign permits. No real changes here. Didn't see any major changes. Exemptions. Oh, this was another biggie out of Reed. When you have a regulation for a sign in your sign code, then you start carving out, well, no, you don't. This doesn't apply to you or you or you. That's another way. Reed wanted uniform, consistent treatment. So that's something we looked at. Making sure that we're applying the code fairly, consistently, uniformly. General sign regulations, not much changes here. This is, you can't put a sign in a site visibility triangle. You can't put a sign in the public right-of-way. But speaking of public right-of-way, one exception is sign walkers, and these exceptions are basically state law. Regulates sign walkers and political signs. With Ellen's help, we've gone a route of political signs. We're just not going to we're not going to address political signs in this ordinance. So that would make you think that they're prohibited because, that signs, they litter the right-of-way. We can't allow an exception, political signs in the right-of-way, because then we have to allow all kinds of signs in the right-of-way. So we took the approach to prohibit all signs in the right-of-way, including political signs. What governs is state law, which says we can't remove them. So that's how they will stay in the right-of-way. Katie's code enforcement team can't go pull them out of the right-of-way. Unless it was a traffic safety danger, then there's procedures for that, but you can't remove them. So that's how political signs, that's how we're proposing political signs be addressed.
Well, on political signs or in general?
Oh, political signs, and stop me at any time.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to back up a little bit. Now, how many of you were on the commission a year ago when this was first, brought forward? So just, oh, you all were here. Okay, most of you are here. Okay. You probably heard back then that, the whole theme of READ is content neutrality. I mean, I think we've all, at least in our business, we've been hearing that for the past 18 months. Must be content neutral, must be content neutral. Basically, if you can't, regulate signs based upon what they say. That's a pretty simple rule, it would seem on its face. But it gets hard when, as Steve already highlighted, when you are defining types of signs by what they say, garage sale, etc. Steve already covered that. So the trick is to be able to make your code content neutral by doing what the Supreme Court does allow us still to still do. What the court carved out for cities and towns to regulate signs is we can regulate the physical characteristics of signs, which include location. And that can be by, for example, zoning district location, because saying sign can be here, or there is not content. It's basically its location, size, number, what the sign is made out of, whether it's something that is going to be substantial or it's going to fall apart. I mean, we have standards for that. So that's kind of, the thing about READ. We do have things that we can do. And even having this, concern about overall aesthetic values, that's been preserved, because that then goes to, the things like the quantity, the size, the location. Now you'll see when you've gone through this draft, one important thing that was carved out by the Supreme Court as well was government signs. The court said that signs that the government puts erects are not within the scope of READ. So the government can put any of its necessary signs without any concern about people saying, well, you're allowed to, the government can have its sign, but I can't. But READ excludes out government signs. And it's not just the city of Goodyear. It goes from the federal level all the way down to if you have a quasi public utilities, it goes all the way down there. Schools, anything that is quasi is government or quasi governmental. And going to right now, we're going to go forward now to sign walkers. That is a state statute. The genesis of that statute was a lot of jurisdictions didn't allow sign walkers. Those are the people who are on the sidewalk flipping the signs, dancing at the intersections. A lot of cities said no. And the sign associations, did their lobbying at the legislature, and the result is this statute. So we have to allow them, even though we don't want to, and we have to allow them to be, it can use the public right-of-way but not cause a traffic hazard, which would be injurious to themselves or others or traffic. So that is a state statute. Political signs, Steve touched upon, state statute. State statute governs the size, the maximum size, and says that we as cities have to allow them to be in the public right-of-way. And, in some jurisdictions, it's kind of interesting because as part of our project, I've looked at, all kinds of draft sign codes that have been put forward in Arizona, other parts of the country that have political sign regulations by state statute. And some jurisdictions they do regulate them in the code itself, and they basically mimic the state statute requirements in their code. But the concern is by doing that, you're kind of taking ownership of those regulations. I mean, I think, the position that I think the better one is that, we don't regulate them because they're regulated under state law. I mean, there's things that we could do if they're falling down or they're a hazard, as Steve touched upon. Yeah, we can contact the organization, the sponsor of those signs. We can do that and ask them to remove them, but we can't touch them. And so some jurisdictions are just kind of, kind of waffling and saying, well, we're going to regulate them, but we're not going to really regulate them. So I think the approach that we're doing here is probably, the most prudent on those.
Sign area and height. Not much changed here. We're still gonna measure signs and areas and the heights. Pretty much one of the only changes we looked at that we're proposing is signage adjacent to a street, because sometimes, you'll have the street higher, so maybe it allows a sign to go a little higher in some instances. So we were maybe trying to keep that provision, but otherwise, when you have ground signs internal to the site, it's difficult to then go back out to the road to measure. So we're going to measure those from the adjacent ground. So that was one of the only changes to this section. Okay, now we're getting into the signage that we do allow. We allow the signage into 3 categories: residential, commercial, and industrial zones. And kind of those are quick rundown of the signs that we allow. And in residential, one of the few of the changes we made, we removed reader panels. Churches and schools were allowed reader panels. So we decided to take out schools because we don't regulate. They're outside of our zoning, our sign code anyway, so let's not talk about that. And then churches, that was one of those exemptions. Why are you allowing one group difference? Actually, a nice enhanced type of signage, the reader panel, when others couldn't. So that's why that was removed, because of Reed. But we are allowing possibly more signage. We're looking at across the board, allowing businesses or organizations signs per driveway instead of maybe just where the code would say 1. So now we're allowing them maybe per driveway, so that's a positive in terms of the amount of signage. We also did some administrative things, moving some sections around to maybe where they made more sense, increased a little bit of signage for subdivisions. Commercial, this is where we went 8 feet tall and 32 square feet. Roughly was kind of what we were allowing. We were proposing 12 feet and 48 square feet of sign area. Again, 1 per driveway. The spacing, if you remember, those signs have to be 330 feet apart. We're reducing that to 150. And again, this code kind of called for maybe a maximum of 2 per site. So now it's, again, maybe possibly 1 per driveway. Wall signs, we're going to allow a minimum wall allowance. That'll help those small tenants who maybe don't have a big frontage and they would only get a little sign per the allocation. At least now they can look at least 35 square feet. Industrial, same thing, following commercial. A little more signage. One thing council wanted was, especially with all the distribution centers, directional signs for trucks, getting them a little taller. So if it's a truck route, those directional signs can be larger. Temporary signs. This section is a difficult one. It was the one that the Reed case was about, a temporary sign, directional signs for the church. So this is one we've spent a lot of time on, and we're still spending time on it and looking at it. But we still have those categories. There are certain signs that do not require permit, and that's by design. Those are yard signs, the sign walkers. We want to make sure people have opportunities for free speech. We don't want to permit that. The political signs in your yard, that's something you have a right to do. Where we do require permit, again, that's for the commercial type signage, like the portable signs, A-frame signs, something that we're going to now offer. That would be an annual permit. So businesses could have the use of that temporary sign, but it is by a permit. And again, we've kind of talked to political signs. State statute covers that. So special sign areas, the comprehensive sign package, that's something I know the Commission's seen a lot, the comprehensive sign packages coming through. We wanted to keep that. I know there was some discussion. Could we do it? Is it consistent with Reed? Our determination was yes. We're going to still go with comprehensive sign package. The idea is that over a multi-parcel development, you have unified signage. Not everybody for themselves, but they'll look the same. There'll be consistent theming. Maybe there'll be branding with that center. Basically, it'll be a nice, cohesive, aesthetically pleasing center. And basically, we know these large centers like Estrella Falls, sometimes they have certain needs. Maybe they need additional signage here or a taller sign here. Again, the comprehensive sign package is the instrument to do that. Something new, McDowell Road, Business Entertainment District. Again, we're still working with that, but basically we're looking at an area, McDowell Road between Saraville and 145th, right there by Lifetime. Properties, businesses in that corridor. Right now, the first thing we're looking at, a business entertainment district could be a huge type of district. You could have all kinds of fun things in there. Right now, we're just basically focusing in on signage. Something council wanted us to look at was the digital signs, electronic message board. So that's what you'll see. The first thing you'll see in this district is signs, potential for digital signs on the monument signs within the district. So that's something new, something council wanted us to look at. Staff, what we've looked at is instead of citywide, let's try this in an appropriate area. You have a lot of regional commercial employment use planned, some existing, a lot planned. Maybe this is an appropriate area to try it. So we're proposing that. Prohibited signs. So these are things we can't do in the city. Usual suspects, billboards, off-site signs, unprotected speech. Again, here more administrative sections. Not too many changes here, just a little, mostly cleanup. Where we did, especially with Ellen's help here, because of Reed, we wanted to make sure any constitutional issues raised with someone having an issue with this had a mechanism to go through, seek relief. So that's what you'll see in these later sections here. Basically, what we tried to do is opportunities where we could allow more or larger signs. We looked at that. Council, the commission at the work session said that was okay, but as long as they were of high quality. So we've tried to maintain, again, maybe more, larger, but again, let's have some nice quality signs. The content neutrality, that's something we've tried to go through here. It's a work in progress. There's more we're going to need to do, but we've tried to get the biggies out. There were code provisions in here where we told the sign owner what they could put on the sign. Those are gone. So we didn't want to do that. The consistent application of the regulations and the electronic message displays. Next, we want to go to council. We want to go out to the public, to the business community, to our residents. Ellen and I and the entire staff are going to keep working on this. We think we've done a lot of work, but we know there's more still to do. We got that final draft to do. Then we got to take it back before you and the council for actual adoption, do public hearings. And that's where we'll, again, like Lisa said before, we'll advertise, make sure the public knows. We'll go through that process. And here's where, if you've had a chance to read it, go through it. If there's any comments or questions, even later, if you read something, if you want to take a look at it and just send stuff, email it to us or whatever. We'd love to get any kind of feedback you might have on this. But again, we just want to let you know where we were, and we're still working on it.
I have one comment about I forgot to mention before, on the content neutrality. What we put in the beginning of this document was a provision that basically if you have a commercial sign, you can put a non-commercial message. Because so it's basically, any kind of sign, if the, property owner or a party who has authorization or permission wants to put an ideological message on a sign, anywhere, that, a sign is permitted anywhere, they can do that. And that's pretty much, the content neutrality concept kind of boiled down to it's an even swap. If you want to go put some kind of big political sign or an ideological sign, on your business, you can do it as long as there's a otherwise permitted sign, and that's kind of a key to that neutrality. Now, as Steve mentioned, we're still working through this. I was commenting to him before, I think we are very close to having something that can, move forward, to, the public comments and maybe, then get that information and do a final draft. I think we're getting close. And as with any other kind of zoning ordinance, it's not a static document. I mean, it's going to be evolving over time, especially something that is this new. And I'm sure you're all aware of, the signs are, the signage landscape, so to speak, is changing. I mean, there's all kinds of different types of sign, electronic signs. I mean, you name it. I mean, we're probably going to have holographs in the sky. I don't know, but we have to be prepared to address those in the sign code, and the sign code needs to be able to be amended to address those new technologies, so to speak, as far as signage in the future. Because, there's all kinds of ideas out there and for doing signage. And at the same time, we want to make it as business friendly as possible to allow a maximum, advertising opportunity for your businesses, but also maintaining your aesthetic goals. So that's the balance. But I think we're pretty soon going to have something that the staff can start to use, and the community can get used to. And then, from there, we'll kind of see how experience is, and then you tweak it along the way.
Any questions for Steve or Ellen?
Comments? I have a couple comments.
Commissioner Barnes?
If you're looking at, I'll just call them e-signs, I'm sure you'll look at distance to residences. I encourage you to make it a very long distance. Because at night, if there's a sign, could be 1,000 feet from your house, and if it's flashing at night, a bright message, it could be very disrupting. But also other businesses, distance. If you're working in your office at night, you could have the same thing. Nobody wants a bright flashing sign when you're trying to focus, or different business types could be, looking for a calm environment or something. So, I mean, they can be great signs, but they can be really, really annoying too. So, I'm sure you'll look at that very closely.
We have that in Article 9 that we did already. That's already started in there.
The distance.
And then height requirements as well, I would imagine.
Okay.
Of course, that if they interfere with walls, over walls, and peer into other people's homes and such.
Yeah. So
I echo that.
And the other thing is commercial signage in general. One of the things I've noticed is, for instance, shopping centers. I've seen a couple where they want to reduce landscape, or they want to bring, landscape together to comply with the minimum landscape requirements. But as consumers, we all seem to want more trees in our parking lots because it's really hot. And everybody tries to park under the tree. And my suggestion is you look at a trade-off where they would give more landscape, and in return, we would allow them more signage. I think that would be a fair way for us to get a better experience and not hurt the business owner.
Going back to the electronic signs, staff also provided you a draft of Article 9-3 about the McDowell Road Entertainment District, and there are some regulations as far as electronic message displays in here in 9 you might want to take a look at, talks about, having it dimming at night, talks about some distance. So if you have any specific suggestions as far as that section, that'd be 9-3-3, which was provided. Please send those comments to Steve as well, and Steve will send them on to me. But it's already, that's being built into McDowell already.
Any other comments? Great work. Keep it up, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Good luck with all the public public input. Hopefully our businesses have something good to put in, but great work. I know that's a tough one to tiptoe through. Any other staff communications? Chris, Katie?
No, sir.
All right. With that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.